Madam
Okay.
Chair, members of the committee. It's great to be here. My name is Hessann Farooqi, Executive Director of the Boston Climate Action Network. We're a group of residents in Boston, and we've been working with some of the other folks you've just heard from. And we've known anecdotally for a while that Mass Save is just not reaching all of the people that it needs to reach. But my organization wanted to really document that in a robust way, particularly around the folks who were hit first and worst by climate change, Black and Brown communities and low income communities. And so we've assembled this whole research project partnering with neighborhood-based organizations in our environmental justice neighborhoods in Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, Hyde Park, East Boston. And we're in the midst of that project, but we already have a few findings we can share with you. We've engaged with hundreds of residents in those places, both landlords and folks who live in their own homes that they own, as well as renters. And what we found, I think, particularly interesting of the renters, only a quarter of the renters that we talked with had even heard of Mass Save. Only 7% had gotten the energy assessment done, but 69% of the renters had complained to landlords about energy issues. And sadly, almost half the renters we spoke with reported that their landlord had either raised or discussed raising rent after improvements or upgrades were made. Now, at the same time, we know Mass Save can help absorb some of those costs, but 72% of the landlords didn't know whether or not they qualify for these kinds of programs. And so we know numbers like this just aren't going to cut it if we want to decarbonize expeditiously and affordably. And so a lot of this really comes back to consumer service. This is the real end user. This is where the pedal hits the metal, right? And so we have a few recommendations around this. We'll give you all the full details later, but um, first and foremost, we've collected a lot of feedback, but Mass Save could collect so much more feedback. And so we want to make sure Mass Save can do that, encourage customers to give that feedback, and then importantly, actually use that feedback to consistently improve the program. That feedback should be both on the program itself, and Mass Save and the PAs, and also the contractors. Um, we also could really use a one-stop shop for up-to-date, easily accessible information on the financing options and rebates and tax credits. And a lot of this can be done digitally. So a technology investment plan that's comprehensive is really critical. But I really can't emphasize enough, this is a complicated program. And so just having another person accessible on the other end of a phone in whatever language someone speaks is really helpful in just walking folks through this. And there are a number of other great suggestions we have, but I think all of this really needs to be oriented around how do we get this program to meet each of our residents where they're at, and understanding those are very different places. So we appreciate your work on that front. Thank you so much.
Thank you.